Hey everyone, my name is Penny Zanker, and it's time to reset. This podcast goes beyond just navigating change. It's about new ways of thinking about how you can approach challenges, how you can shift your mindset when needed, create some space and grace for yourself so that you can rethink, recharge, and reprioritize when and where needed. Are you ready to unlock your full potential? Thank you for hitting play and sharing this next episode with me. It's time to reset. Hello and welcome to Take Back Time. My name is Penny Zanker and I'm your host. Today we're going to talk about how we're going to get the year started out so that we can really make effective goals and, more importantly, reach our goals more effectively. So who needs that, right? Hello. So I'm excited today to talk with Robbie Samuels. And what I loved about what he said when I spoke to him earlier is he's a multi-passionate entrepreneur. So I love that. So you might see him come back for another topic. But today, this is one of his passions. And today's guest, Robbie, he's been recognized as a networking expert by NPR, PCMA, Harvard Business Review, Forbes, and Inc., and is an expert in virtual event design by JDC Events. As an event design consultant and executive Zoom producer, he helps organizations to overcome common virtual event mistakes to increase engagement and sales. And that's what we're going to talk about next time. So we'll be anxious to see that from him. He's an award-winning author of 3 books that have collectively received over 650 5-star reviews. Now, for those of you who don't know, that's impressive, okay? On a 3-year anniversary of COVID-19, bringing all in-person events to a screeching halt, he published Break Out of the Boredom, Low-Tech Solutions for Highly Engaging Zoom Events, which won a Gold Award from Nonfiction Authors Association. Since 2016, he has hosted On the Schmooze podcast, and since March 2020, No More Bad Zoom Virtual Happy Hour. That would be a good thing. Please join me in welcoming all the way from his home in Philadelphia suburbs, which is where I am as well, TEDx speaker and HBR contributor, Robbie Samuels.
Thanks for having me on. Thanks, Penny.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. And I love that expression, multi-passionate entrepreneur. That struck me as really fun and accurate for many entrepreneurs that squirrel, we can make an excuse as to why we get pulled in so many different directions.
There's a lot that I am known for, and I have a specific ideal client and offer for each one of those areas, but I haven't let go of my previous levels of expertise as I've developed new ones. And actually, what we're going to talk about today is content from my experience as a business growth strategy coach, and specifically content from my second book, Small List, Big Results, Launch a Successful Offer no matter the size of your email list.
I love that. And of course, we do build on the experience that we have and then be able to offer it at another level. And a lot of entrepreneurs, and then I'll get into our main topic, but a lot of entrepreneurs have a struggle with that, is how do I present myself in a clear way when I have so much more to offer? And it seems like such a say I'm the Zoom guy, right? Like, does that feel uncomfortable when people say, oh, you're the Zoom guy?
In some contexts, that is how I'm known, and it's totally fine. I'm also known as the book launch guy, and I'm known as the 12-week sprint guy, and known as the networking guy. And then for a while, that went away because networking was something we did in person and stopped doing in person. But then last year, NPR reached out to me about that and about my TEDx, and this year on Amazon podcast, This is Small Business, reached out to have me on. So I guess that content hasn't completely gone away. It's coming back. So I think that we're an accumulation of all that we've done in the world. And a lot of the clients that I work with for my coaching practice tend to be entrepreneurial women in their 50s and beyond who are looking to grow their impact and income through a new revenue stream. And I will say, parenthetically, a few good men. And I work with some people who are less than 50, people of all genders. But what really, I think, is happening for the women I've attracted is they have this level of knowledge they've acquired through hard work over 20 or 30 years, and they're ready to offer it in some new form that in that sense is what's new to them. And they're starting to feel a little nervous either about the marketing or the tech or strategy or the self promotion or sales, or I mean, who knows, right? There's like a zillion things that they make them feel like a novice the first time in a long time. And what I'm always leaning into is your network is the folks that will start buying from you. So no matter the size of your email list or how big or small, your network is always bigger. And so that's the premise for my second book, is really how do you build an audience before you try to sell something. But in that book, I talk about the difference between quarterly goal setting and 12-week sprints. And that's what made me, I think I started thinking about that when I thought about the content in your podcast.
Yeah, fantastic. I think it is important to talk about the best ways to reach our goals, right? So, what is the difference there between quarterly planning and
Oh.
12-week sprints?
On the faces of it, this seems like one of those word problems that wasn't written quite right. I've asked this in large groups and had people write their answers in chat. And most often I will see people writing 1 week. So it's not quite that, but they're kind of onto something. I think for me, the difference is that quarterly goal setting, which was how I started building my business. I'm a firm believer in not just setting yearly goals, but having shorter term milestones to reach, or else you really don't know whether you're going to how do you know at any point during the year whether you're on track? And if you get to the end of the year and you haven't hit your goal, you don't know whether it was a lack of effort or poor strategy or poor execution or something. Like, you don't really know where to begin to examine that.
Well, and you're not focused on the drivers, right? If you're just set a goal, and for me, the quarterly goals, and I'm anxious to hear, I've had my thoughts about sprints and whatnot, but to me, it's about what's driving the results and making sure that you're focused on that. And that may need to change, right? I believe that the shorter the time periods, and maybe for me, quarterly might feel a bit long, but for me, it's about these check-ins. I call them reset moments.
Mm-hmm.
It's these check-ins that help us to reset. Are we on the right track? Are we focused on the right things? So yeah, so it's those shorter term milestones that you said that help us with that.
Yeah. And 3 months is about the right amount of time to see progress on something, to be able to see a result or hope to see some result. The downside to quarterly goal setting is that there's no downtime in between quarters. And so anytime you take away from all that effort to meet whatever is particularly the goal or the objective in front of you, whether it's time to learn something unrelated, whether it's time to take care of yourself or someone else, it's time to just take a break. You just feel like you are taking your foot off the gas as opposed to rallying forward.
Intentional, as opposed to being intentional. I love that, because that's the built-in reset moment, just to use my language, right? That gives you permission to take a break, to focus on other things, like you said. So I love that. Like, I never thought of it like that. I had a different thought, that the difference was something different, but I love that.
For me, is that at the end of the 12-week sprint, I have 4 weeks that there are certain activities we sort of focus on for each of these 4 weeks. Now, you're not taking 4 weeks off every 12 weeks. You're still working. You might even spend that first week or so kind of wrapping up where you were working on the previous 12 weeks. If you're like really close to wrapping something up, you might be finishing that up. You're also, playing catch up on the rest of your business, your life, your job. The first week, though, you're going to set some time aside to reflect and assess. So take an hour, take half a day, depending on how intense the project was, by yourself or with a team or with an accountability partner, with a coach or a mentor, and really sit down and have an honest reflection and assessment of what was the original major or minor goals. And my thought is to have 1 or 2 major goals and 1 or 2 minor goals. And the difference for me is a minor goal is sort of a piece of a bigger project usually. And if you pick your minor goals right, it sets your goals later on in the year or next year to be a little easier. So if you were working on a new website, a minor goal might be to get new headshots. The following 12 weeks, rewrote some copy. And the following 12 weeks, you hired somebody to actually pull it all together and do the redesign. You've already kind of pulled some pieces together. So that's how I think of the minor goals, where a major goal is one that requires more effort and will have more bang for your effort. It'll have a better outcome. So first week is reflect and assess. Week 2 is relax and rejuvenate. Take some time off, whether that is an afternoon nap or a whole week off. It really depends on where you are in life and what else is going on. But plotting out that time off at the beginning of the year. So one of the things I do is I map out time off. And if you follow starting in January, and again, you can start this 12 weeks at any point, but if you started this in January, it would be April, August, and December as the months in between sprints. And
Mhm.
by the way, a sprint could start sooner than 4 weeks. Like if you wanted to do this in a week and a half, like, you know what I mean? You can move quicker. The third week is just in case learning. And just in case learning is different than just in time learning. Just in time learning is the kind of learning you do that's related to the goal that you're focusing on during the 12 weeks. But then ChatGPT shows up and you're like, I want to learn about that. Crypto, that seems exciting. All the things that seem exciting, but don't seem quite adjacent, they don't seem that related to your project. Save those for this week and then unabashedly consume replays, podcasts, books. Just dive into a topic, geek out on it, have so much fun
Mhm.
because sometimes those ideas seep into your project and might actually help you create an innovation. But you don't want to distract yourself when you're on that sort of goal timeline. And then lastly, in the fourth week, you set aside some time to do some strategic reset, which is where you take everything that you gathered from your reflecting and assessing. You obviously are still thinking about these projects when you have your time off. So some things will come to you during that time period. And then whatever new things you're learning about, and you sit down by yourself or with an accountability partner or a coach or a mentor, and you set your goals for the following 12 weeks, which will be based on what actually happened in the first 12-week sprint. So you're not setting out 4 quarterly goals and it just kind of ramrodding through the year. You're seeing what worked. And part of my success over the years, and the reason I am a multi-passionate entrepreneur and a successful one at that, is that I've been able to pressure test ideas quickly. And then if it doesn't take hold quickly enough, I'm able to shift and try something new. And the things that work, I keep doing. I put a certain amount of effort for a period of time. And at some point, the effort is not as great, but the money is still coming in. And then I go and I put the effort into new things and I pressure test new ideas. So
Mhm.
just having this sprint model has helped me innovate and be more nimble and responsive to what's happening in the world.
Awesome. I really like it. I still want to challenge though that I feel in today's, and I'm sorry, this is what I do in this show, is I might challenge you a little bit, is I feel like 3 months is a long time to wait to have a formal reflective process, that a lot can go wrong in 3 months. You can miss the mark. So I kind of feel like for me, right? And I'm curious why, and maybe it requires a reset, right? Because we're in a faster paced environment. The markets are changing. I mean, really, if you waited a whole quarter for like implementing AI or something like that, or it slipped by you for 2 quarters or a year, you'd be like trying to catch up for a long time as opposed to creating your competitive advantage by maybe learning monthly or more often. Does that make sense? So do you feel that's still relevant, or would you say maybe it needs an upgrade?
Well, I couple this with OKRs when I'm coaching people, which is objectives and key results. And
Mm-hmm.
so we can tell on a weekly basis whether or not the particular actions that we're taking are moving us forward or not. So there's
So you're not
reflection
waiting
built
once
in.
a quarter to reflect. You're
Right.
reviewing
Yeah.
those
You're
on a
reviewing as
regular
you
basis.
go. It's just that I will tell you, for instance, that in 2018, I spent 3 months trying to get the second version of a coaching program off the ground. I had done a pilot. And in 3 months, I had hundreds of people check out the landing page and no one pressed the button to book a call. But I had other calls coming in, emails really, asking to pick my brain about this or this or this. And so by having that 12-week mark, I was able to sort of stop like pushing, and kind of go, okay, what's going on here? Wait, I got these 6 calls. No, I got 250 people looking at my landing page. So I went and talked to a coach. I rebranded my offer. I understood my market better. I went back to the people who had reached out to me. They ended up being my pilot folks, and I moved on. So if I hadn't had that moment, sort of the line in the sand, I might have just kept pressing forward with the belief that it just needed to try harder, right? Just like get more eyeballs or something. Like I just think that it's good to measure as you're going, but I feel like there's a moment where you really have to say, is the ladder leaning on the right wall still?
Right.
Is this the thing I really want to keep doing? And if new ideas, like I'll tell you, ChatGPT showed up when I was writing my third book. I did not stop writing my third book to go learn about ChatGPT. I didn't because, I mean,
Makes sense for you. It would take
would
you
have
off track.
blew me up. Right.
Right.
Now, what I have figured out since then is what are specific things I can use ChatGPT for? What are specific use cases? Like I have not become global expert on AI or ChatGPT. I mean, some people jumped into that. I'm not trying to do that. Other people have filled that spot. Now, when Zoom became the thing, I jumped in with both feet and I became known as the Zoom guy. So if it's aligned, sometimes things shift for you, but it's like, it's better to really understand where you're going because then serendipity happens and you can see it. So sometimes unexpected things will happen like AI or Zoom or whatever it might be. But I knew at the time that Zoom happened, my whole purpose in life was teaching people that events are about content and connection. And the fact that the medium had changed did not change my philosophy. In fact, now I'm like, okay, now we got to figure out how to make that reality in a virtual space. How do we make content and connection be meaningful when we're on Zoom? So my direction didn't change, the medium changed, but I built on what I had previously been successful at. So I just think that this guards against noble obstacles and shiny objects, which can pull us in 16 directions. And if we're not getting enough traction at the end of 12 weeks, that is a good reason to pause. And I'm often pressure testing in even less time than that. Like I went to a conference over the summer and by the end of the month was like, okay, so I'm not going to sell to that market quickly. It's a long-term game, you know? And so I sort of went, got it.
I guess what I'm hearing and what it seems to me is that it depends on that these lines in the sand. I totally agree with you that these reflection points are absolutely essential to keep us on track and make sure we're staying up with the things that make sense for us to stay up with and having space to also be ready for the future and so forth. And I think what I'm also hearing and what I would agree with is that it depends on the circumstance and what it is as to how long you might want to wait for reflection, and that you can have that quarterly that's already fixed in. And then as you go along, there may be some things like you just said for that particular pressure testing is it only needed a month, right? So that you can also identify those maybe on the fly or as that particular thing comes up to identify what are the right pressure points or reflection points for this particular thing that I'm looking at. So stats for your website makes sense that you want to give it a little bit more time, right? So I think that's the key is to step back when you're setting those goals and setting that sprint is to identify what are the best reflection points. Is it just the quarter or are there other ones that should be in there?
Just to remember, it's not quarterly because it's not based on the calendar year, right?
Based on the 12
week. What I also say, Penny, is that I've gotten better at tuning in to whether or not something is taking flight or not, because I have gotten better at reflecting and assessing at those moments when like I had sort of drawn the line in the sand. So there's now a muscle that I have around this. So when I go in, like I went into that particular audience knowing that it was probably not going to be easy, but thinking I've been not trying this. I like, okay, here's the opportunity to go try this. It's selling it to corporate, which has not been my thing. And so I was like, okay, this is the right time and right place to do that. Made some traction, realized that while there's not resistance, it's just a really long game. And I can keep having some effort on the side around this. But if I want to add another $150,000 to my business, this is not the fastest way to do it. So I had kept staying open to the next thing. Now, if I had just stayed glued to that, I may have missed the next opportunity that came my way. So getting better at sort of understanding, my word of the year for 2024 is ease. And I really came up with it in October. And I feel like I've been practicing it ever since. So for me, if it's not just happening, then I'm like, okay, I'm looking for the easy, the flow state for how my business is running.
So this time went super fast. So tell me, what didn't I ask you that you feel like the audience really needs to know about the sprint process?
Well, I actually detailed it in my book. And if you go to smalllistbigresults.com, you'll be able to download all the bonus content, which includes worksheets and workbooks, one of which that details sort of these 4 weeks in between and demonstrates the calendar how that might look. But the book also goes into specific steps to discover likely prospects and likely referral partners within your existing network. Now, if you are a salesperson, obviously that would be very helpful for you, for a business owner. But if you're just trying to think about how to more thoughtfully kind of investigate or prioritize who in your network you might want to stay in touch with next year or in the coming year, then this would be really useful. It's like an interesting exercise, whether it's your LinkedIn list or your phone contacts or whatever it might be. But there's a lot of really great resources at that link.
Fantastic. Those will all be in the show notes for sure.
Excellent.
So thank you. So, and you already gave us where to go to find out more information about you. Is there anything else that you wanted to share before we shut down today?
No, I mean, this has been a really great space for this conversation. I don't often get a chance to talk with someone else who knows so much about it. Thank you for that.
Oh, my pleasure. It's always fun. And I'm always learning something new as well. So thank you for being here. And thank you all for being here because you're always learning something new. And I think this is a really fresh way to look at how you're approaching your year. It's not quarterly. It's in these 12-week sprints, and it's giving you really clear structure as to how you're going to reflect, re-energize. And I think that is a good period of time. You're on a sprint and you do get tired and you get maybe your creativity wanes, and that gives you a chance to learn something new and really then to set forth and realign in your next 12-week sprint. So that's what you guys get to do. Go ahead and download that book and make sure that you download all the resources with it, and make sure you contact Robbie as well. I'm sure you can link in with him and find him in all the social channels, and they'll all be connected to here as well. So my name is Penny Zenker, and this is Take Back Time. We'll see you in the next episode. Hey, thank you for spending this time with me. It really means a lot. If you're feeling a little off, distracted, overwhelmed, stuck, or just out of sync, remember that's your signal to reset. And that's all it takes, just recognizing one reset moment at a time. So stay tuned for more tips, tools, tricks, stories, strategies, all here on Time to Reset. We'll see you in the next episode.